Okay, today is June the 4th, Sunday evening, just after the weekly close. Let's do the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. So let's go ahead and start off with the news events. This week we don't have anything we really need to worry about. On Monday we have PMI, and then on Thursday we have unemployment. So it's pretty much a non-event kind of week. Let's go ahead and get into legacy benchmarks. Let's start off with the NASDAQ, just because this has been the market that's been putting every other market on its back. The NAS is up a ridiculous amount year to date. Continues to show strength every time it starts to pull back. It just Dalai Lamas immediately. So gonna, basically expect that that should continue throughout the year. It's getting into a bit of a tricky area where I expect it should have a pullback, or at the very least a consolidation to cool down, just because it's gotten pretty heated up at this point, feeling a bit overextended. So that's pretty much it for the NAS. TLDR is, it's been really strong. Shorting it is absolutely stupid. Trend continuation betting is basically the only thing that makes any sense. Let's get into the S&P. S&P a little bit more orderly. Like we had talked about, we were waiting for us to continue to compress into this range that we were building. And as the NAS continued to trade up, we expected the S&P to follow, and that's playing out. So the S&P has about $100 more of potential upside before it gets into its first trouble area, around 43.5. So the expectation is the same with the S&P. We want to be continuing to play trend continuation until we get into key resistance zones, where maybe it is better to be risk off in the sticky areas, but continuing to play trend continuation like we've done all year long. As soon as the year started, with any benchmarks, whether we're talking about legacy or crypto, the trends have been quite obvious. So there's no sense in trying to get smart with it. Just follow the trends. So let's go ahead and get into Bitcoin. A few different things to talk about. The core thing I want to address here is the kind of question of, is it time to get bullish? So my original thesis was that we would trade down a little bit lower, but it really doesn't feel like the market wants to do that. So I originally wanted to, take the next swing long region in the mid 25s, and we've really been held up by last year's VWAP, and it's really showing like it just doesn't want to break down basically. So there is a lower time frame setup that we're going to go over here momentarily, but basically the idea is that we need to be prepared for crypto to follow legacy and trade up, because the entire time that legacy has been trading up throughout April and May, crypto's been pretty bearish, trading down. Definitely the sell in May meme held true with crypto this year, per the norm. So it does, definitely my gut feeling is that I'm not going to get the downside sweep that I really wanted to, and then I need to go ahead and start slowly pivoting back to being bullish. So let's go ahead and present the argument from the higher time frame. So essentially, we were looking at last year's VWAP, current year's VWAP, and then this very large low volume node here to act as support. Conveniently overlaps with the macro composite as well. So 25K basically is going to serve as invalidation now for the bull thesis. Now that doesn't mean that if we trade down below 25K that it's immediately wrong. It's more about acceptance below it, which is going to be much more of a discretionary concept. But the TLDR of everything on Bitcoin is that I do think that it's probably time to be bullish, and we're going to go ahead and present that argument in a more clear way on the lower time frame. Let's do that now. So we have this this value that was built up. It started as a weekend comp, and then the rest of the week kind of built around it. So we've been oscillating around that. The picture is a little bit more clear on the actual TPO that we have going on here. So just like we talked about on the stream on Friday, guys, the weekend comp played out kind of perfectly. So definitely going to be paying attention to how the fresh VWAPs are forming in combination with this composite for a directional play. The gist of it is that if we start to break out to the upside of the weekend comp, definitely don't want to be bearish, want to be playing trend continuation, assuming that the swing play is to the upside. So if we look on Bitcoin, it's really not as clear of a bottom as it is on something like ETH, which we'll be covering later. But it does look like we have, at the very least, temporary bottoming structure here. So at the very least, it should be able to trade up for another lower high. And then potentially that is not going to be a lower high, and it's going to actually be a higher high. So that's my gut, is that I want to be bullish. So I do have some positioning already. Some of the positioning is being carried over from last week. But I'm long Bitcoin and I'm long Litecoin, and I'm probably going to be long Ripple, as much as it pains me to say that, but it is what it is. So TLDR for the corn is that on the immediate picture, going to be using the weekend comp to invalidate long bias. You know, if we accept below the weekend comp, then I expect that we should trade down. If we hold above it, then we're going to trade up. Simple as that. You guys know that I love the weekend comp plays. They just they seem to really work in a pretty reliable way for myself. So I'll be leaning heavily into that. That's pretty much it for the corn. If I'm wrong and we aren't bullish here, my invalidation is going to be nice and tight. We're talking about less than 500 point invalidation right now, so I'm not really worried about being wrong. Guys, it's really not about whether you're right or wrong. It's about if you make a lot when you're right and if you lose a lot when you're wrong. You could be right all the time, and if you're losing a lot on that 1 or 2 times when you're wrong, it's not going to matter, right? So it's all about managing the expected value. For more information, check out the Paragon group with the link below, where I cover everything from how I trade to how you can develop your own style. Okay guys, let's go ahead and move over into altcoins. So first off, we'll start off with the boomer stuff. So like we had talked about several times now, I know I've mentioned this a bunch of times this year, but Litecoin, the Litecoin halving is probably about 60 days away now. I think it is very low EV to fade it. This will be the 3rd Litecoin halving that I've traded, and all it's pretty low, not very many data points by any means, but I just think it's makes sense to turn our brains off and bet on these kind of narratives playing out. So I've reaccumulated my Litecoin position. So originally I bought it over here at the end of 2022 in the mid 60s, around 64, 65. I sold it off in the 90s, and I'm buying it back basically in the same region. I started buying back in the 80s, basically DCAing in back to where I originally sold it at. It's not about, I don't really care about where my entry's at. It's just more about, is my risk defined and am I playing trend continuation? So TLDR is Litecoin is a trend continuation play. I'm hoping that the structure shapes up because it really doesn't look that great right now. More so leaning into the narrative than anything. If I can get some confidence, in the VWAP structuring looking good, then maybe I'll, put on a shorter term perp long as well to, compound my risk a bit. We'll see. Okay, the other boomer one to pay close attention to is going to be XRP. I unfortunately faded this one at the beginning, not in the sense that I shorted it, but I ignored it when Charlie called this one out. I should have just gone ahead and gotten it because it's up like, 10 cents from when he originally called it out. The gist of it is that the XRP, SEC security hearing is not that far away. So the speculation is that they're going to win the case and that Ripple's going to go up. At the end of the day, I don't really give a shit, one way or the other. All I care about is the fact that when I look at the derivative data, there's pretty obvious vertical accumulation going on here. If you look at the spot CVD, there's been an extremely large spot buyer over the past several weeks. So somebody big is betting on upside, so it makes sense to swim in their wake. So I don't have any positioning on this one yet, but it is one that I'm watching closely. I'm playing Litecoin mostly with spot, like I said. Probably going to play Ripple mostly via derivative. I don't think I'm going to allocate a spot holding to this one. I think the Ripple one will be a little bit more short-lived. Okay, let's run through a couple more. So Tomo has been one of my favorite coins to trade in the second quarter of this year. It's definitely been in a cool-off phase for about a week or two now, but I think that it's probably done cooling off pretty soon here. So I'm probably going to be trying to play trend continuation on Tomo. Another one is going to be Render. This has been another coin that I've really liked playing this year. Basically going to be trying to play trend continuation. Same thing with Ant. I have no idea what this coin is, but it's lining up really well, compressing right now for upside continuation. Delete this so you guys can see more clearly. Your invalidation is really nice and tight on something like this, so if we think benchmarks are going to trade up, a shitcoin that looks like this is definitely a fair play. A few more to point out are going to be INJ. INJ was one, or I clicked on the wrong one. INJ was one that I really liked trading. Like we had talked about, we basically traded the first part of the whole stage up until the $10. Once we traded into $10, I just took it off the list and said fuck it for a while, because once something gets that overextended, it's just going to, chop around for a while. I think that it's done cooling off. It didn't really trade down as low as I had hoped it would, but I think that it's probably going to start to be a hot coin again. So definitely keep a close eye on INJ. Tron is another boomer coin that I'm keeping an eye on. I hate trading Tron because it's, price structuring is a lot of the time pretty disgusting. But it's looking strong, so I am keeping a close eye on this one. Two more Zoomer coins are going to be the AI things. So Ocean is one I'm keeping a close eye on, and then AGIX is another one. So neither of these have particularly bullish VWAP structuring, but the AI narrative has been, a pretty surefire play thus far, so I'm going to lean into that. There isn't too many other altcoins that are worth mentioning. There's a couple, maybe like Solana and stuff, but yeah, none of them look too great. The one that I forgot to mention, which is probably the most important to mention, is going to be ETH. So I think that ETH has a much more obvious bottoming structure that has formed here, and it has, it's fought for its VWAPs in a much more bullish manner, in my opinion. So I am going to be paying close attention to ETH. Because I think that it might be the horse that I choose for upside continuation. So I'm not going to mess with my spot holdings or anything, but for whatever degenerate long I take, if I want to bet on upside from derivatives standpoint, it's probably going to be ETH for my safety play. I think that ETH has been living in Bitcoin's shadow for quite some time now. I basically haven't traded ETH at all recently, so normally once I get to a point where I feel comfortable ignoring ETH is normally it means we're getting to a period where I need to start paying attention to it again. I've gone through that cycle on my own several times now. That's pretty much it for altcoins. As you guys can tell looking at my list, I have this perfect balance of boomer and zoomer coins. It's very strange times right now, or we're trading things like Ripple and Litecoin alongside AI coins like Render. It's just a strange world. So that's pretty much it. Shorter outlook than normal. I think I just blasted through it today. That's pretty much it. I don't, as far as news events go, it's not a very eventful week, but I do think from a structure standpoint that we are kind of shaping up for volatility. So basically, if it's not this week, it's probably, the next week or the week following, right? Like, I hate to be cringe with the whole like, well, we're low volatility, so expect volatility, but we're at that point now where definitely feeling the low vol summer vibes where everybody falls asleep, everybody falling asleep at the wheel right now. I do think it's a really good idea to start getting refocused, because generally when we pick back up again, it comes back quick. Think about how January came in. We talked about it a lot in December, getting ready for January. We were ready for January. A lot of people weren't. And it's kind of the same vibes right now, where you really want to try to be ready to go for the volatility when it comes, because it's going to come back quick. And, people are going to get left behind that don't have their prep work done. So get your prep work done. Cheers, guys, and good luck.